Hello there, I'm back. This is Robin Norgren. Here's the book club, Practicing the Way. Wanted to go into more detail about this question of what is a rabbi. I'm going to take some thoughts from this author, John Mark Comer. If you have not looked him up, make sure to do so. But my desire is to have you thinking about things that maybe you've heard about before, but maybe no one's gone into detail about. And as a way for you to come into a conversation of, like, what is this thing about having a relationship with God? What does it mean? Is it important to me? And if so, why is it important? All right, so let's talk about the theme for today. What is a rabbi? Imagine this. Your name is Simon. You're a first century Hebrew, likely in your late teens or early 20s. You run a fishing business in the Galilee, a string of villages in the north of Israel. Your life is pretty much mapped out for you. You do what your father did and his father before him. Living under Roman occupation, there aren't a lot of options. Keep your head down, be quiet, pay your taxes. One day, you're waist deep in water, casting your net alongside your brother, Andrew, when you notice a man walking towards you on the beach. You instantly recognize his face. It's him, Jesus from Nazareth, just a few miles away. Everyone is talking about this man. He is saying and doing things no rabbi has ever said or done, ever. Here he is, walking straight towards you. You make eye contact. His eyes sparkle like stars, like there's a cosmos behind them. He radiates joy, but there's no small talk. Come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. You're absolutely stunned. It can't be. Not you. You immediately drop your nets, drag Andrew out of the boat, though he doesn't need any coaxing. Leave everything behind, fall in step behind Jesus, elated to be in his company. Or in the words of the biographer Mark, at least at once they left their nets and followed him. Now, if you're familiar with this story, it's in the New Testament of the Bible, it's easy to miss how bizarre it is. What would make Simon literally walk away from a profitable business and leave behind his family and friends with zero planning, all to follow a man with no income stream, no organization, no official position into an unknown future? Is this drinking the Kool-Aid before there was Kool-Aid? Or are we missing something? So that's the premise. We're talking about Jesus actually was a rabbi, right? So you've heard many titles of Jesus and who he is: the Son of God, God incarnate on earth in a man's body. But let's talk about what it means to say that Jesus was a rabbi. If you were Simon and Jesus were to visit your synagogue one fine Sabbath morning to preach, the category you likely would have put him in was that of rabbi or teacher. The title rabbi literally means master. Rabbis were the spiritual masters of Israel. Not only were they expert teachers of the Torah, which are the scriptures in their day, they were also magnetic examples of life with God, those special few who shine with inner luminance. Every rabbi had his yoke, and this is what yoke means. It's a Hebrew idiom for his set of teachings, his way of reading scripture, his take on how to thrive as a human being in God's good world. How you, too, could taste a little of what they've tasted. Rabbis came from a broad cross-section of society. They could have been farmers or blacksmiths or even carpenters. Most trained under another rabbi for many years, then began to teach and call their own disciples around the age of 30. But there was no formal certification like in our modern educational system. Authority worked differently. Your life and teaching were your credentials. Rabbis were itinerant, and most were unpaid. Some worked their farms or ran businesses for seasons of the year and then traveled in the off-season. They walked from town to town to teach in whatever synagogue would have them, relying on the hospitality of people of peace. They often spoke in parables and riddles. Normally, they traveled with a small band of disciples, teaching not in a classroom, but in the open air and along the road. Not from a textbook or curriculum, but from the Torah and the school of life, basically life experience. Over and over again in the four Gospels, Jesus is addressed as rabbi. So the four Gospels would be found in the New Testament, and it would be Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, Jesus was no ordinary rabbi. Everywhere he went, the crowds were astonished and overwhelmed with wonder. The biographer Luke wrote, "All spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his lips." Mark said, "The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority and not as the teachers of the law." They gave feedback like, "Where did this man get his wisdom?" Or even, "No one ever spoke the way this man does." Of course, saying that Jesus was a rabbi is about as insightful as saying he was Jewish, although that's another truth copious numbers of people forget. But sadly, very few people, including many Christians, take Jesus seriously as a spiritual teacher. Now, here's the words that I basically went and looked up in the dictionary, like I always tell my kids in my students. To some, he was a wraith-like apparition. So wraith-like means lacking in substance, unreal, and actually insubstantial. And an apparition is just simply a ghost. He was there to inspire later generations to a fuzzy kind of goodwill. And to others, he is a social revolutionary. Resist, fist up to the Roman Empire then and all empires now. And to a large number of Western Christians, he is a delivery mechanism for a particular theory of atonement, as if the only reason he came was to die and not to live. Let me say that again. To a large number of Western Christians, he is a delivery mechanism for a particular theory of atonement, as if the only reason he came was to die and not to live. As a result, many Christians don't consider Jesus all that smart. Holy, sure. Kind, yes. Even divine, but intelligent? Not really. An increasing number of Christians don't agree with him on crucial matters of human flourishing. They would rather trust a politician, celebrity, or pastor gone rogue than Jesus the teacher and the disciples who studied directly under him. They would never even think to consult Jesus on pressing matters of our time. As Dallas Willard said, what lies at the heart of the astonishing disregard of Jesus, found in the moment-to-moment existence of multitudes of professing Christians, is a simple lack of respect for him. This is vital because if to follow Jesus is to trust him to lead you to the life you desire, it's very hard, if not impossible, to entrust your life to someone you don't respect. But if Jesus were more intelligent than any other teacher in history, such as, is he more intelligent than Stephen Hawking or Karl Marx or even the Buddha? And what if he was a brilliant sage with insight into the human condition that is still 200 millennia later without parallel? What if he simply has no equal or peer? Now that could be someone you'd put your trust in. Of course, to call Jesus a brilliant rabbi is not to say he was just a brilliant rabbi. The sign hanging above Jesus' head when he was crucified said King of the Jews, not Guru. It tells you a lot about Jesus that his enemies perceived him as a political threat. This would have made perfect sense in Jesus' culture. Moses, the great historical luminary of the Jewish people, was called Moshe Rabbanu, Moses our rabbi, and Israel's great teacher. First century Israelites were waiting for a new Moses to appear and lead a new exodus out of the Roman Empire, a figure they began to call the Messiah. Some expected the long-awaited Messiah to appear as a warrior or a military leader, but many expected him to come as a great teacher. As two scholars put it, the Jewish people believed that becoming a great scholar of the scriptures represented life's supreme achievement. And in such a culture, it made sense that the Messiah should be the greatest of all teachers. And no wonder Jesus became a Jewish rabbi. But we Christians believe that he's even more than the Messiah. Jesus made claims that no Jewish king would ever dare utter. Claims that got him accused of blasphemy, a capital offense in his world. As one of his critics put it, "We are not stoning you for any good work, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God.